The spirit of the day's work. Perhaps we might get along better if we remembered that it is all in a day's work. There's a lot to be done, but we don't have to do it all today. And the higher the task, and the more difficult, delicate, and important the matter, the more necessary it is to attack in the spirit of a day's work at a time. To learn to play the piano, or to read French, or to overcome a bad habit, or to write shorthand, or to achieve poise and patience, or to be good, nobody can come at such accomplishments at once. It is little by little, the steady forcing of the will upon one's stubborn desire, mind, or fingers, whether we feel like it or not, just as a day's work. It is so we crawl up the steep hill of perfection. The will to do is important, and the ambition to do is necessary, and hard work counts. But one essential to any excellence, whether in craftsmanship or character, is time. Somehow or other the past indues us. There's no such thing as a fresh start. Every new start carries with it something of those we made before. Every effort silts something into our nerves or muscles or brain cells so that they are different next time. The power of the 30th day is the result of the invisible dividends of the 29 preceding days' work. Somebody asked Suzanne Wesley, John's mother, why she told her children the same thing over and over 20 times. Because 19 is not enough, she answered. In that greatest of earthly businesses, mothering, it is the spirit of the day's work that helps. To carry on so complicated and vital affair as the training of children, there is needed, above all, that self-possession which comes only when we conceive of our work as lasting but one day. And it is when we look forward too much and keep expecting results that time alone can give, that we fall into the petulance or fretfulness that destroys the quality of our guidance. The clock has millions of tick-tocks to make, but it has a moment in which to do each one of them. The sun rises regularly to his duty, and sets at night satisfied with what increment of growth his day's work has supplied to living beings. And we need never expect to arrive. Our business is not to arrive, it is to travel, to cover each day our allotted span, leaving all questions of ends and values and rewards to that mind that thinks in centuries and weaves men and the labours of men into its vast fabric. Our plan is on the trestle board. Our lines are known for this day's duties. Let us do what is marked out for us. It is for us in this world to live by the day and not by the job. One word. Almost every seat in the streetcar was taken. Men sat with their noses glued to the newspaper. Women looked boredly out of the window at the cold rain dripping down into the muddy street. The morning was dull. The car moved irritatingly slow. Drabness and greyness everywhere. Everybody looked to be in an excellent state of preparedness to bite everybody else upon the least provocation. The car stopped at a corner. A man clambered on with difficulty. He was partly drunk. He had hard work unbuttoning his overcoat and fetching a nickel from his trousers pocket. The conductor snapped at him to hurry up. The man retorted angrily. They had some unpleasant words, not all of them printable. The man lurched forward to go through the door. He was negotiating his entrance into the car with some pains, when someone said one word to him. It was a little boy about 6 years of age. He was nicely bundled up in an overcoat and wore a red tam o' shanter cap. His little plump legs were sturdily planted apart as he stood in the centre of the aisle. His face was shining, his eyes sparkled, his ruddy cheeks like ripe red apples. He looked up at the man and said, "Hello." But what he put into that one word, how much good fellowship and suppressed fun and rollicking play and comradeship and clear, beautiful human feeling. The man stopped, looked down at the small mite before him, and quickly a change passed over his features. The brute fled, a spirit came. His ugliness dropped from him as a garment. His eyes softened. He smiled. He leaned back against the door jamb and said, and his voice was full of the tenderest fatherhood, "Hello yourself, you God-blessed, beautiful angel child." The child laughed, and the conductor laughed. Men looked up and smiled. Every woman awoke to vivid interest and wanted to hug the child. The car started. The man found a seat. The little boy went back and stood by his mother. The car rolled on, but its load of humanity was transformed. Something divine had swept every soul in it clean of its doldrums. Little songs started up in hearts, like crocuses pierce the snow in early spring. Gentle thoughts hovered about that company as swallows fly about the eaves at sunset. Everybody had been converted and became as a little child and saw the kingdom. All day long that one word echoed in 1,000 avenues and sounded on like a silver bell, and even its most distant waves brought peace on earth and goodwill to men. Such a work was wrought by one word of utter brotherhood. And there came to my mind the phrase of John Maserfield, the last words in his Good Friday. "O beauty, touch me, make me wise." Hidden happiness. Happiness is rarely visible to the multitude, says a shrewd observer. It lies hidden in odd corners and quiet places. Happiness is a shy thing. Grief is blatant and advertising. If a boy cuts his finger, he howls, proclaiming his woe. If he is eating pie, he sits still and says nothing. If you ask a man how he is, he searches himself to find a pain to report. If he has nothing but happiness, he hates to mention it and says, "Oh, not half bad." We conceal happiness as a vice. We are rather suspicious of it, and if we feel particularly well, or have exceptional good luck, we knock on wood. The fact is that happiness does not come from the big events of life, but is made up of innumerable little things. Ordinary, everyday happiness is composed of shoes that fit, stomach that digests, purse that does not flatten, a little appreciation, and a bit of this, that, and the other, too trifling to mention. The big things, such as someone giving you $1 million, are not only rare, but they do not satisfy when you have the neuritis. We are so cantankerous by nature that we are usually able to spell happiness only by holding it before the mirror and reading backwards. Leonardo da Vinci used to write that way. That may be why he could paint the joyous one with so enigmatical a smile. For if you seek to analyze contentment, you go at it negatively. To feel well means you do not have headache, toothache, nor toeache. You have no dyspepsia, catarrh, gout, sciatica, hives, nausea, boils, cancer, gripe, rhinitis, iritis, appendicitis, nor any other itis. And to determine your joy, you must reckon by checking off and eliminating the factors of possible pain. Answer: happy if no pain discoverable. So elusive is joy. Some day try reversing this process. Note all the pleasurable things. For instance, a good sleep, a delightful snooze in bed after you ought to get up, a delicious bath, the invigorating caress of cold water, a good breakfast, with somebody you love visible across the coffee cups, a half-hour's diversion with the newspaper, the flash of nature's loveliness outdoors as you go to work, interesting faces on the streetcar, pleasures of your business, pleasant relations with your fellow workers, meeting old friends and new faces, the good story someone tells you, and so on. You'll fill your notebook, and you can get your disappointments and grievances into 3 lines. Happiness, they say, is scant in this wicked world and hard to find. One way to find it is to look for it. The Real Aristocrat. The idea of an aristocracy, or a superior class, has always been in the world's mind. Nobles, or high-born ones, or some sort of upper 400, every nation in history has had them. The Jews had their Levites, the Japanese their samurai, the Romans their patricians. The caste system in one form or another exists today in every European country. Even our USA democracy has its plutocrats, every city its smart set, and every hamlet its upper crusters. When there is so much smoke, there must be some fire. There is a superior order of beings. The trouble is that those we call superior are only so called. They are really common as mud, most of them. For it is not money that makes one really superior, nor birth, nor culture, nor genius, nor intellect, nor place. One may be quite vulgar, and have any of these advantages. To know the real aristocrat, watch for these 10 marks. 1. Simplicity. The aristocratic soul loves simple pleasures, not because he cannot have the complex ones, but because greatness naturally chooses simplicity. These things indicate a vulgar nature, to wit: expensive, highly seasoned, and elaborate foods, costly or showy clothes, the wearing or owning of much jewelry, fondness of perfumes, a taste for luxury and display. The curse of great wealth is not that it is a sin, but that it usually vulgarizes one's nature. 2. Service. The inborn leaning of a high soul is toward serving, of a cheap soul toward being served. The moral strength of the race is in them that work. The ills of humanity flow from its idle class. If there were no idlers, there would be no war, no poverty, and no privilege. 3. Character. A great soul exercises his influence over his fellows by what he is, not by what he has, nor by the position he holds. 4. The true aristocrat is above his pleasures. He enjoys things, but he can quit any minute. The hosts of the petty-souled are driven by their desires. 5. The great soul has no bitterness. Pessimism is a fever of the small-minded. It is due not only to lack of vision, but to an inherent inability to appreciate the dominant force of goodness. Self-pity, self-depreciation, despair. These two are traits of commonness. The genuinely high-born nature cannot slump into them. 6. The true aristocrat can be told by the way he acts toward his superiors and inferiors. In the organization of society, everyone finds some above him in station and some below. The elect soul knows how to conduct himself toward his superiors so as to preserve his own self-respect, and toward his inferiors so as not to break down theirs. 7. The gentleman is clean-minded. Dirt does not stick to him. His soul cleanses itself like a cat. So it was said of Lincoln. His heart was as broad as the world, yet it had no room in it for the memory of a wrong. The great souled cannot retain a grudge, nor remember a slander, nor take a vicious or unclean hint. 8. Truth. The real great ones never want to be appreciated at more than they are worth. They do not show off. They want to be known for exactly their real value, or less. The little ones want to make a good showing. 9. The high-minded do not meddle. They do not want to know other people's concerns. They are reluctant to improve, reform, or regulate their neighbours. But they are courteous, thoughtful, and ready with help when help is sought. 10. Finally, the exceptional folk are they with whom familiarity does not breed contempt. The better you know them, the more you value them. How many such spiritual aristocrats do you know? How many of these marks do you find in yourself?